All right, bam, we're live here. Let me start sharing my screen. And we're live here. Welcome. We're getting started in just a second. Going to be talking about remodeling and ending the job site chaos. For those of you that are here early, takes a second to get all the technology set up. If you're new to the group, or the live, just let me know where you're from, what part of the country, and maybe what your specialty is. That always helps. All right. So basically, the way this usually works is I'll roll through some of the content that I want to share about remodeling in general, and then you all ask any questions in the comments, and we get through. And at the end of the day, you're going to make more money in your remodeling business. Who doesn't want that? All right. So I used to think that it was just sometimes the luck of the draw why some jobs ran well and why other jobs seem to be absolute chaos. And then you start learning that it has a lot to do with other things that you can control, believe it or not. So welcome. Again, just if you're new to the group, let me know where you're from, what part of the country, or maybe what niche you specialize in. So here's the thing. There's a reason why there's chaos on your job sites. Plain and simple. And I'm not talking about micromanagement, and I'm not talking about barking out orders. So control, in a sense, it'll give you some clarity. It'll give you some consistency, and it's going to ultimately lead to having profit. So, but here's the truth. Like, you'll get ghosted by your own crew, and your clients are going to be texting you midday asking what's going on. Subs are going to be playing musical chairs with your schedule. Um, it's not that you have like a labor shortage, you just have a leadership vacuum. If you don't run the ship and tell people this is the way we're going to do it and make sure that everybody's on board, they're going to start getting their own ideas about how to do things, right? You're going to start having subs telling you, we're going to start this day and this is why. You're going to have to dictate to them. Yeah, James. So I'm coming out of Maryland. Let us know what state you're coming out of. All right. So look, job sites don't run themselves. The whoever's in charge, which should be you, the GC, right? Your company culture should be doing it. Awesome, James. Welcome aboard. You want your company culture to be in charge, right? And this is how we get it done. We're going to be respectful. We don't leave a mess. We respect the homeowner's property. We respect their neighborhood, right? We don't drive like a-holes around the neighborhood or to and from the job sites. People see all that stuff. So any vagueness that you have is going to turn into why you're missing details, why there's damage, frustration, and lost referrals. And again, the homeowners can put up with a little bit of problem in the beginning, but it grows and then they get pissed off. That's why you have to set these precedents early to get the guys on board right away. And you do this with both direct employees and subcontractors, right? And look, here's the truth. Like, this is not hard. The average contractor is not doing that. That's why it's so easy to raise the bar. The average contractor doesn't want to have a set of policies. They make that, to them, that's like too restrictive, right? But you need that. Your homeowner wants some rules, wants some discipline. Okay. And once you create it once, it gets much easier to implement in the future. So the problem is this: if you don't do it, it's going to cost you a lot. It's going to cost you thousands of dollars in mistakes. And that's why you get those bad online reviews, or why you can't get a review in general. And that's why the homeowner starts getting frustrated, agitated, starts texting you in the middle of the day, angry, all the things. In the beginning of the relationship, everyone's excited. They can't wait to get started. You can't wait to make all the money. And then what happens? Like 3 weeks in, everybody's pissed and wanting to fight each other. You don't want that. So you got to start asking yourself, what is your policy with your subcontractors? How do you make sure that they understand the schedule and that they can adhere to? And when I say schedule, I mean, look, in general, we work from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. That's it for home. If you're working on homeowners' houses, okay, I'm talking residential construction. Typically, it's more like 7 to 3, and we don't work Saturdays typically. So, how do you help your subs understand that you can't dictate their hours, but at the same time, it's like, guys, you have to wrap this up Monday through Friday, right? And you need to be on here on these job sites during normal working hours. The homeowner has to maintain a schedule, especially if they have kids, and we need to adhere to that schedule. Also, the whole thing about people being barefoot, I get that. Some parts of the country, it's more prevalent than others, but you need to have a policy with the homeowner where their kids are not walking through the job site barefoot to check. They need to have on shoes, and you're just protecting everyone. It's making smart decisions and let them know, like, hey, this is for your own protection. I know it's cool. Like some people love to walk around barefoot everywhere, but not on a job site. Okay. And also music, little things like nowadays with headphones, people can put on the headphone setting to where it's transparent. So what that means is they can have something playing in their headphone and they can actually hear everything that's happening on the job site. So those are things you have to check to make sure, like you have to see that they actually have that setting on their device and that that's the setting that they're using if they're going to use headphones. Otherwise, they shouldn't be using headphones. And if you're going to play music, it shouldn't be anything obnoxious. It shouldn't be anything loud. It should just be something that helps sometimes drown out the monotonousness. Some guys just need a little something playing in the background. It should just be regular public radio, typically, things like that. Because your homeowners don't want to hear trash, especially if they have kids. Okay, just play nice things if you're going to do music. And everyone should wear shirts. Like these are just basic things. I know the young kids want to be cool and get a tan, but the homeowner just wants to see that you're professional. So everybody should wear a shirt. The guys want to take the shirts off, they get the job done faster, and then they can go hang out at the pool. But when they're on the job site, they wear their shirt. Okay. And these new guys making a name for themselves on Instagram, I mean, literally, they're building barn dominiums barefoot. I mean, they're idiots. I get it. I get their niche. They're doing it for the drama so that they get the displays. But if you're running a real business, like that's stupid. You're not doing that. The guys are wearing shoes, boots, whatever. All right. So job site policies, these aren't just for control freaks, right? And they're not just for corporations. This is for anybody that wants success. I don't care how big or small you are. You have to have a standard set of policy that gets repeated from job site to job site. That's how you produce success. It's like any other discipline, whether you're an athlete, um, whether you're a musician, you do the basic things over and over again, and that's what produces the consistent, predictable, profitable result. So, a solid job site policy has very simple things. These are the days and times that we have work going on Monday through Friday, 7 to 7, right? Certain noise is to be restricted, right? No foul language, no loud music, right? Cleanup requirements. Everybody is responsible for cleaning up in all of your subcontractor agreements. I know the big joke, electricians don't clean up. Well, they do on our sites because it's in their subcontractor agreement. They're responsible. And if they don't, they get charged a fee. So we let them know up front. You can do one of two things, Mr. Electrician, Mr. Plumber. You can either broom sweep your mess at the end of every day, or you could be charged a $125 cleaning fee. Your choice. Doesn't matter to us. Okay. You'll be shocked how many of them start cleaning up after themselves. But it also means that your guys have to be keeping the job site clean. If a sub shows up and the job site's a mess because you didn't enforce and you don't respect the job site yourself for the other guys, well, then they're not going to follow these rules because they can clearly see that you don't follow them. So you have to be consistent in what you do, right? And simple things like just if you're working on homeowners' houses, keeping a clean job site will go much farther than you can imagine. A big thing around a lot of people is parking. So where are your guys going to park? It should always be in a legal designated spot, not on the homeowner's lawn, not half up on the curb, half in the street. Like You want it to look respectable. So when other people are driving through the neighborhood, they're like, there's some professionals doing work. You want to talk about smoking? Our company, it's a non-smoking policy. So if somebody has to smoke because that's part of their affliction, addiction, whatever you want to call it, they got to go to their vehicle. And then their vehicle can't be on the homeowner's property while they're doing it. So they literally have to drive off out of the driveway, go down the street, whatever. And what it is it's just a level of professionalism. Okay. Because a lot of the stuff that people are smoking, like there's odors involved, and homeowners don't want that, not especially if they have kids. Also, how are you handling materials? Where are materials being stored? All of that should be discussed in your policies. You should have policies like no power tools are left plugged in at night so that the homeowner can mistakenly go chop off their finger on your miter saw. Now, if they decide to plug in the miter saw, that's on them, but your crew, like very simply, should be unplugging power tools if you're using corded tools, and you should be disconnecting batteries off of your cordless tools, especially when there's kids on properties, because kids have a way of finding their way into places they're not supposed to be and playing with things that they shouldn't be. And you don't want one of their kids, your customer, getting hurt or physically, that's causing a real problem because they went and used one of your tools because you guys left it on the job site. You need to discuss your bathroom policies. All right. Most homeowners don't want your guys using their bathrooms at all. So if you're going to be there for longer than a few days, you should consider the use of a rental, right? A porta pot. Otherwise, the guys have to learn, like, they got to go somewhere else to use the bathroom. And it doesn't sound like a big deal, but the problem is most guys in construction can't clean up after themselves and they make a mess. And that's why homeowners don't want them in their bathroom. So just avoid the whole situation and set up other arrangements. Now, some homeowners on certain jobs, maybe they have a guest house, maybe they have a basement bathroom, maybe they'll designate something with you. But everyone should be clear about how the policy with the bathroom works. And that should be broadcasted across all channels. You don't want a mistake. Site access, especially when there's, if you guys are bringing in equipment because you're doing additions, where is that going to be stored? How is that going to be secured? Um, where's the material? If you're going to have large piles of lumber, how's that being stored and secured? What are you going to do with the homeowner's pets? Now, we have a policy where we are not responsible for maintaining to make sure little chewy chihuahua doesn't get out. That's the homeowner's responsibility. You should not be putting that burden on your carpenters, on your subs. Some of these homeowners get a little crazy about their pets and they want you to be responsible. They have like all these little policies. They do these 3 different things to make sure that the dog doesn't get out. Well, they have to learn to put the dog away. It's got to go in a crate. It has to go up in another part of the house, another room. Your crew, it should not be responsible for the dogs, the pets, the cats, the goats, whatever it is. And that should all be discussed up front so that you have a very good conversation about that. Do not take on that liability. Even if the homeowner says, it's not that big of a deal, our dog's great, you can just let him out at lunchtime. No, we can't, because we're not dog walkers. We're not dog sitters. You can set that up. We're professional remodelers. And then the minute you take on the responsibility of saying, okay, I guess I can let little Chewy out at noon. And then when he gets out, like out into the neighborhood, now that's your responsibility. And now your guys are walking. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a dumb, don't even take it on. Just let the homeowner know you're going to have to make arrangements to keep your pets safe. Make sure that you have a good understanding of your liability insurance. Okay. Understand whether you need to put up caution tape, whether you need to set up a barricade for certain projects, whatever it is, understand that. And make sure that you have setup and breakdown policies. So the first thing that whoever's the first person on site for your company, real quick, they should like kind of take a photo of what the job site looks like the minute that they show up. They should ascertain that for the most part, it's in the same condition as when you guys left, because another part of your policy is whoever's the last one to leave from your crew, your company, or your subs, they have to take a photo of the job site. Now, this gets complicated on bigger, larger projects, and you'll go through that with your company. But in general, you take a photo, like if you're working on a kitchen, you stand back, use the wide angle, take a photo of the kitchen, And then wherever you're storing all the materials, you take a photo of that, you leave, you're done. Right. And first thing you get in the morning, you take a photo of each. So everyone, you're documenting all this for liability purposes. I happen to live in a litigious state. I live in Maryland, and homeowners will, if there's a challenge, a frustration, they want to look for someone to blame, whether it was your fault or not. So you do these things to protect yourself so that you aren't being used, or your policies are going to cash out for the homeowner when they try to make some kind of frivolous lawsuit about against you, let's say. All right. Sounds a little extreme, but it works. So you have a set of policies about the way your guys open up a job in the morning and the way they close it down. Whoever is your lead carpenter, they should usually take 15 minutes to a half hour to make sure job sites are set up and secured, whatever. Or you hand that off to a helper. That's up to you guys. And there should be some sort of a daily log. Every person who ever visits a job site, somehow there should be a record of it in case there's ever any discrepancy about something happening at the homeowner's house. For instance, those of you that do bathroom remodels, this happens a lot. You'll send over your crew to do the demo on day one. They're ripping everything out: the tub, the toilet, the vanity, the sinks. They're capping off the water lines. They're done at 3 o'clock. It was a good day. Then all of a sudden, there's a leak that night, right? The house floods. The homeowner is going to be pointing fingers at somebody. Did one of your other subs happen to visit the job site, and were they poking around, wiggling something? Did they mess something up? Was it one of your guys? That's why anyone who visits a job site, they log it. I was here, I did this or that. And you always want to know who was on site on what days. You'll never remember this stuff, so you have to have some sort of a log system. You can even just use pen and paper, and it's on a binder that's kept at site. It can be done digitally. You can use different apps. You can use different software. There's no excuse not to have a daily log. So that's enough about that. I think you guys get it. I had one GC tell customers we would use one toilet and they had to pay for. Yeah. I mean, Jay Allen, it's crazy. The amount of homeowners that get frustrated over toilet use is insane. And I get it, because this is a very real story. I went to a friend of mine that I went to school with. He hired my company to do a steam shower in his basement. And I sent my guys down. These are guys that W-2 employees worked for me, my lead carpenter and the helper. And my buddy calls me up one day. He goes, "Hey, your lead, he's awesome. He's great." And I said, "Oh, that's good. Yeah, he's been with me for a while." He goes, "But you're all his helper?" He goes, "You know that guy every day he gets here, he's here for a half hour, and then he goes and he's in my bathroom for over a half hour every morning." And I was like, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Look, at first we were being nice and just said, yeah, if you're in an emergency. But the last 2 weeks, every day he spends a half hour in the bathroom. I just didn't know if you even knew that that's what's happening on your job sites." So you'll learn some interesting things sometimes about the habits of your guys. I mean, that's like completely unacceptable, right? And I don't know the whole story at the end of the day sometimes, because you don't know if a carpenter, one guy's covering for another. You don't know. Like, I think it was, I don't even think the main lead carpenter always knew what this guy was up to. I think he was telling him, "Hey, you go work on this. I'm going to work on that." And I mean, to be honest, a half hour, that's not going to, you're not going to always notice that, right? Especially if you're busy doing work. You might sometimes go, "Man, I don't know why he didn't get farther along." But anyway, bathroom policies get interesting. Um, some guys, you're just going to have to drive to another location, or you're going to have to put in a porta pot if you're there long term. Or you got to make sure that the guys are cleaning out the bathroom at the end of the day. I don't know how else to explain it, but the homeowner doesn't want to deal with your guys trash in the bathroom. Yeah, exactly. They do. Exactly. Yep. So it's not worth it. The cost of, if you're doing a big enough project, the cost of putting a porta pot there is nothing. So, but it's these little things that make a big difference. So you're making me laugh, Jayon, because it's so true. It's ridiculous, but that's the crap that goes wrong on a job site and causes you to never, to lose your referrals and not get another job. So all of this little job site policy, this sets the tone. You should have something that's printed So where if you especially if you have permits on the job, right below the permits should be a posting of the policy, the job site policies. They're basic. You might have 10 or 12. And most of the time it's common sense stuff, but the common sense things need to be reminded because it's not always as common as you think. All right. You got to remember it like this. The way you manage your job site is very similar to how any other business sets up their storefront. Your job site is your storefront. The way you stage materials, the way the guys park the vehicles, right? The way they operate during the day, the way you transition from one task and to another. You should be keeping things clean, and also clean job sites are safe job sites. What we found is we don't have injuries when we're keeping the job site clean. When there's a bunch of crap in the way because nobody's taking their time and there's all these cutoffs from plumbing pipe and there's this cutoff and you've got debris from a week ago, and people are stepping over things, that's when people get hurt. So a clean job site eliminates that, and it makes the homeowner think you're just even more professional. You could be a terrible carpenter, and if you can keep things clean, people will think you're top notch. So all right. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to invent or implement a couple key strategies. So that job site policies page, you go over that in the pre-construction meeting with the homeowner. Okay. You let them know up front. And you can also, we utilize it as a sales tool to let homeowners know why they should hire us because we're going to keep their house safe, respectable, and our guys aren't going to get hurt. Things like that. So you should also go over what the homeowner can expect from you as a company, right? This is how we maintain our professionalism. This is how we maintain our schedule. This is how we maintain communication. And then you also always want to make sure that you're working through with the homeowner. How are things going to be handled? Like, where is the lockbox going to be? Right. So some homeowners don't want to be opening the doors for you in the morning. They want you to have your own access, like through a side door, a back door, the patio, whatever. So is there going to be a lockbox on site? Uh, I My recommendation is you keep things in lock boxes. Never should one person have a key and then take it with them. Because if they lose it or if they don't show up the next day, everybody else is screwed. And then you end up looking like an idiot because your company's not organized. So, homeowners' keys to their property should never actually leave the property. It has to be secured. So, maybe you have a job box on site, and then inside that job box, you keep a lock box and the key stays in there, right? Or there's a lock box on a door or on a pole somewhere, whatever. You figure it out. So, but all this is communicated upfront with the homeowner. And remember to use certain types of languaging, right? Mr. Miss Smith, we do these things so that we don't leave things up to chance. We don't want problems unexpected, right? We have standards that we follow. That's how we get the consistent high level results time and time again because we follow these standards. What works best in our experience, right, is setting ground rules up front so that we focus on progress, not problems. Here's what we've seen work in the past, time and time again, on our best projects, the ones that the homeowners get the best results. We follow this set of things. So that's the way you communicate to the homeowner. You're not being a dictator, right? You're not like barking out orders. You're just saying to them, hey, we've done this like 100 times. And we found when we started doing it this way that everyone was happier. So understand that policies really it's the difference between demonstration and enforcement. Here's what I mean. Having all the policies in the world won't matter if you don't follow them. You have to follow your own policies. So when you write these things up, make sure that they make sense. Don't just throw out some garbage and then not even follow it yourself. And you can't let your favorite guy or your best guy not follow the policies once you've come up with them. Like you have to let everybody know that we're all held to the same standard because certain guys, there's a certain thing in remodeling I find that certain guys like to not follow rules just because they don't like to follow rules. And you have to pull them aside and say, "Hey Joe, look, you're 35 And I get it. You're like this rebel. You don't like, you don't want to wear your seatbelt or whatever. You don't like to do anything that society tells you have to do. If you want to work here, you do these things. So that rebellious streak of yours, exercise it somewhere else. But when you're on our jobs, these are the things that you do if you want to stay employed here. And just have a very honest conversation with them. And then let them decide whether they want to be a part of your team or not. So there's no one guy on the team that should have special treatment. That just creates a bunch of problems with the rest of the team. And at the end of the day, he's not helping your company one bit. And I know it because I've gone through this. Like I've had a very talented young kid who was awesome and he couldn't follow certain rules. We had to get rid of him because he was creating too much of a negative atmosphere for the rest of the team. So I got one guy that's messing up like 4 or 5 other guys. I don't care how good he is. If he can't get his attitude together and just be part of the team, this isn't the company to work for, right? He can go do it on his own. All right. And this is how you get good references, and this is how everything just starts falling in place for you. Have good job site sign. Make sure that you post permits so that everyone understands them, sees them. Always have a schedule on site. Keep a set of plans. There should always be multiple sets of plans. One should be on site. One should be with your lead carpenter. One should be at your office. The homeowner should possibly have another set. That way, in case somebody takes the set home because they got confused, somebody spills coffee and destroys them, little things like this, have backups of important things. And make sure you have some sort of a job log, a way to track progress at the jobs. All right, so here's some ways you can use ARI for those you or AI rather, right? If you want to use to help create these policies. And think about it like this. These are some what if scenarios. We've had homeowners that want to be part of the job, right? They want to be there like every day. And what we say to is we totally understand that this is an important investment. This asset means a lot to you. And I know you're excited about the house. And Mr. Smith, what's worked best for us is we have homeowners. We'll set up check-ins for you at different points during the week so that you can totally come over and see how the job's going. But what we can't have you doing is hovering. You're not going to be able to be here all day long watching the guys. So how do we help you make that work, right? Are you going to be able to do that? If you want to hire us, there's no hovering. And this way we'll keep you up to date. We'll do 2 walkthroughs a week with you. So I've had some women that think they're into their husbands, investing in a property, and the woman wants to be all like the interior Joanna Gaines all of a sudden. And it's like, hey, we have a policy. You'll have to make all your selections up front. Here's how it's done. Once you make them, that's it. There's no coming back. If you're going to come back and change things, then that requires a change order, and there's a fee for that. You have to go through this with people because you can see this happening over and over again. So let's say you have a sub that is not following like a job site policy, and the homeowner's watching it and calls you up. You first thank the homeowner for flagging it. Hey, thank you for seeing that. I appreciate you letting us know. Yes, we do have a policy. Yes, that is something that we discussed. And yes, that should not be taking place on the job site. I will handle that immediately, right? We always want your job site to reflect professionalism, Mr. and Ms. Smith. And you did the right thing by letting me know. So immediately upon hanging up that call, you're on call to the sub, and it's a very straightforward conversation. Hey, we have some policies. You were aware of them. For whatever reason, you weren't following them, whether you're aware of it or not. Going forward, that's the policy. We need you to adhere to it. Is that something you're going to be able to do? Because if not, then today was your last day on that job. Like, just very straightforward. Because here's the thing, they already knew about the policy because you had them initial it in their application when they came to work for your company, right? Or when they accepted. You should for some of you guys, when a subcontractor accepts work and you should have that policy as part of the packet that they get to look over to price the job. Hey, we'd love to have you work here. And if you're going to work here, you're going to have to do these things. Like you're going to have to wear shoes. You're going to have to wear a shirt. No loud music. You're going to have to park here, things like that. They should already be aware of it so that if there's a problem later, it's very easy to just move on. So what if you've never had job site policies and you feel awkward bringing them up now? Because that's going to, especially those of you that don't have them and you already have a crew in place, you have to let the guys know, hey, we're leveling up the way we run our business. We're taking it to the next level. That's what professionals do, right? We've been operating here for the last 3 years, and now we're going to go to the next step. And by doing that, it's going to help us attract better clients, land better jobs. Hopefully, the company will be, in turn, making more profit. When we have better jobs, that's better for you guys, more consistent work, all the things. So you're letting the crew know that these policies are in place for a reason and they benefits the team as a whole, right? And you can get their input and their feedback. One of my guys came up with the concept of how uh, you all the guys' vehicles get parked right in the professional spot. And what I mean is nobody parks on the lawn. Unless you're out in like a rural farm area, and that's just the standard. But what I'm getting at is a lot of contractors with trucks, for some reason, this, you like to like pull up like up on the curb, or you want to get a closer parking spot. So you pull into the homeowner's front yard for whatever reason. Um, and you're like, well, I have a truck, so whatever. Well, a lot of times people in the neighborhood like that causes them a lot of angst. And homeowners might not want the trucks on their yard like that. And here's the thing, not everyone's good with saying no in the moment. So the homeowner might say everything's fine because your guy who drives the truck, like he might be a little rough around the edges and the homeowner doesn't want to piss him off. But the homeowner's completely not fine with it. And you'll learn these things. So you just have the policy up front that all vehicles at all times are always parked in a proper designated parking spot that's predefined. And you ask the homeowner, where would you like us to have our crews park their vehicles, and let them know up front, hey, some days it's going to be 5 vehicles here, might be 3 vehicles. There's going to be some large trucks. One guy drives a trailer. He's going to need access to back that thing into the driveway or whatever. Just go over all those things with the homeowner. And guys should, if their vehicles leak oil at the transmission, the transfer case, the engine, well, then they need to have something, a dog bed, a contraption, an oil pan. I don't know. They need to put something under the vehicle to catch those drips during the day so that you're not leaving stains on the homeowner's brand new paver, travertine, whatever, fancy slate driveway, whatever it is. You don't want to be leaving stains all over it from your guys' vehicles. Yeah, transparency is awesome. It really is. When you're upfront with homeowners, they recognize that there's people are human, right? And they're going to give you a lot more credit. But you always want to address the elephant in every room. Don't be that company that doesn't talk about the craziness that's happening. You know. All right. So that's what I have for you guys today. At the end of the day, look, you're just doing these things to help make your job easier. I'm telling you, if you have some policies and you follow them and this is how you get customers to pay you the proper amount and not want to discount the price when they start recognizing like, whoa, these guys are professional. If you start talking about your policies and how you manage your crew before you've sold the job, the homeowner's going to be like, none of the other contractors talked about that. And you can be like, yeah, it's a nightmare. You got guys driving vehicles, parking them all over the place. It's a disaster. The tools are left out. One of your kids might get hurt. How are you going to even walk around the house when these guys don't even have a plan for how they're going to stage the material and where they're going to put their tools? No, you can be pretty much assured that if it's the cheapest bid, they ain't going to be taking the time to make the job site nice because they can't afford to. And then the homeowner starts to get it and they start recognizing it. And you can just ask them, what's the cheapest motel like? It's not nice, all those things. So thanks, Fidel. But yeah, so hopefully this kind of stuff helps you guys on your job sites. Um, Trying to see it. I mean, literally that job site policy sheet, it's just 1 page. It's not a big deal. And all this stuff sounds pretty silly when you hear me say it, But if you don't say it, oh, the other thing that's huge, hear me on this. No food or food trash is ever to be left on site or in the homeowner's trash. So if your guys want to go out and get a nice meal and bring it back, fine. They do not put their food trash in the job site trash, right? Like, let's say you're framing up for an addition. There shouldn't be some tacos in there. There shouldn't be pizza, whatever. No food trash is ever left on site because that just attracts all sorts of problems, especially if next thing you know, you got rodents getting into the house. The homeowner's going to be pissed. Their pets want to get into your job site trash. So that's a big one. And I explain that to homeowners up front. I say, look, one of the things that's different about our company is the guys, they're going to obviously eat on site during the day most of the time because that's pretty standard in construction, but they are not going to leave any food, trash, anything related to food ever on site. They take that with them every day. That's one of the reasons why homeowners like to hire our company. It's little things like that because you don't want rats and mice and maggots because some guy forgot, that he left half of a tuna sandwich down in the bottom. And, next thing you know, you're not there for the weekend. That trash has been just sitting there getting ripe. And if it's the homeowner's house, they're going to be pissed when they find that out because it's disrespectful to them and their house. And here's the thing, the homeowner might be dirty and do that themselves, but we don't do that on their sites. Oftentimes, we are cleaner than the homeowner. And that's just the reality of the world. So, what kind of questions do you guys have tonight? Anybody got any questions about job site policies? So, like I said, having them written and showing them to the homeowner makes a huge difference for sure. And your guys will start to adhere to them. It doesn't take long. All right. Well, guys, if Mikey, have you been here before? I don't think I know what part of the country you work in. Yeah. Look, Jan, you don't have to have one. I would suggest it. Um, be, I don't know if you use a presentation binder when you meet with the homeowner. Hold on a second. So I still would carry a binder. Now you can put this can all, we also have this digital. So like I'll be sitting with a homeowner and I can show them these files digitally, but in here, you should have any certificates that your company or you personally have, any licenses, you should have a copy. You show that to the homeowner, but also you should have, I'm pretty sure, I took it out to show somebody on one of these calls. I might not have put it back. Hold on. Yeah, I think it's in a different pile, but it's a real easy way so that the homeowner, everyone's expectations are on point. Yeah. Isn't that the way it goes? You think you have something right in front of you, and then that's why when you do things live, you always got to be careful what you say. I think it's in this pile. But they're not It's nothing crazy. It's just basic things that your crews should follow. So you'll ask, I'll come across it and show it to you on another call, I guess. I don't have it as I thought I had it. It'll happen. I'll find it in like 30 seconds when the call's over. But it's very simple stuff. And it makes you start being more cognizant of how you're being with your homeowners too. And I find it really helps justify. It's one thing that can help you justify why your price might be a little bit more expensive. So like we have a daily job site to-do list. Where's the camera? Let me see. Yeah. So you should have something like that so that all your guys understand what they're doing every day on a job site. You can share that with the homeowner just to let them know that you're organized. It's like your own little checklist. I mean, even Subway, right? Like one of the first things Subway does with their sandwich artists that they call them, they just have a checklist: how you open up the store, how you close the store. This is how you make a sub, right? Very simple instructions, but it's written down. It's not just talked about. It's actually in writing so that the person can refer back to it. So that would be my suggestion. Don't just rely on email. Exactly. You have for your subs the same thing. And here's the thing: you make it up the packet and you hand that to the sub with the scope of work, whatever they're doing, their contract to work with you. And you just remind them simple things like, hey, this is how you're going to park your vehicle when you work for us. Things like that. Yeah, it keeps you from lying. Yeah. And it lets the homeowner know that you're doing the best you can to keep the job site safe and you're trying to do what you can to be accountable. And I've had instances like I shared where the homeowner has called me up and said, hey, remember that policy you talked about? Well, one of your guys is doing this. And I'm like, I really appreciate you sharing that. And I say to him, understand that, we are adults, but like, I don't control people. At the end of the day, everyone gets to make their own decisions. And some guys make dumb decisions. And it can be painful to say, hey, Billy, you can't work here anymore because you can't seem to follow the policies. And I've got homeowners now calling me up complaining about it. Right? I mean, it's just the way the world is. But when a homeowner sees that you've enforced something like that, and when they find out like a couple of days later that that person doesn't even work for you, your credibility goes up through the roof with them. If it's something like egregious, let's call it something that needs to be addressed. Um, you know, or if you've got a subcontractor that just will not adhere to certain policies, you got to let them go. And you even let the homeowner know, hey, Mr. and Miss Smith, you've shared such and such with me. We're going to be letting that subcontractor go. As a result, it's going to push back the schedule like a week. You have to have that conversation with them as well. If it's if like, for instance, if you have a subcontractor that just cannot lock up a job site properly, and now it's causing other like safety concerns, or has left a gate open 3 of the last 5 days in a row, and that's caused a problem because the homeowner, like their dog has gotten out now. Like, I will say that yes, closing a gate is a responsibility of your crew. Yes, the homeowner should check that, but it happens. Guys make bad decisions and they just don't if the gate was closed when you showed up, the gate needs to be closed when you leave, little things like that. Oh, here it is. Here's the job site policies and procedures. I think everything gets backwards on TikTok, but basically, Flammable materials. Let homeowners know that you have a way of dealing. If you guys do any staining, if you're carpenters, you do not ever leave a pile of oily rags in a pile on a job site. Like that is remodeling 101 stupidity if you ever do that, because that stuff can ignite. So all rags, if they're ever being left on site, they have to be laid out flat, right? Like hooked over like a metal bar to dry out. You can't leave stuff in piles. So, and properly trained guys know this over time, but flammable material is a big thing. Lunches, um, you know, you're not like our crew. Like, let's say we're remodeling a house, you're not using the homeowner's furniture to have lunch, right? You eat lunch over in the corner of the job site. You sit on buckets. You sit in your vehicles, um, whatever. But things like that. Daily cleanup. We had a policy of no external radios to be brought on site. Um, so, and like utilities, you're not to be using the homeowners' things. Like you're not using this is a little, you shouldn't be doing personal stuff with homeowner stuff, is basically the way this says. So I hate it when the dog gets out chasing them for an hour because, yeah, I mean, it's stupid things that happen. Dogs and cats can be a nightmare. It really should be on the homeowner. That should be part of your policy, that, you should have that discussion in your pre-construction meeting. Mr. and Ms. Smith, your responsibility to maintain that pet while we're here. We cannot be pet control while we're also setting trusses. I mean, that's ludicrous. That's just say, if that's your expectation, no, we're changing that right now. Unfortunately, we cannot be taking care of your pets on a daily basis. So I don't know if that means you need to board the pet while we're here, if it needs to go stay with another family member. I don't know. The homeowner has to figure that out. But and I get it. Like some people have like 3 to 4 pets, and you're like, you can't possibly be responsible for 3 cats, 2 dogs, while you're trying to build an addition off the back of a house. So that's a very real problem that comes up. Yeah, so who else is here? Yeah, so, and Mikey, I don't think I know where you're from, if you've been on here before, if you're still on the call. It's hard to tell who all's on here right now. Brittany, I think I recognize you. I think you've gotten some things. Welcome, if this is your first time on one of the lives. Nick, welcome. Um, anyway. What else you got, Jay Allen? You're always you'll let me know something good, I'm sure. All right, guys. Nice call tonight. That's pretty much all I have for you. Just looking through some of my paperwork. But it's the little things that make a big difference with homeowners. It really is. Just let them know that you're going to respect their property, right? You're going to be cognizant of where you park. You're going to be cognizant of where you're storing materials, how you store the materials. And company rules, you should, Jay Allen, like you should have a set of these that you have on for your own self. And everybody should be aware of company rules. Like you hear me when I say this. You may think this is like, why do you have to say it? You have to say, like, no alcohol or drugs are allowed on the job sites, or immediately preceding, right, or after. Yes. No, we have a policy where employees, unfortunately, can't bring their pets onto a job site. That is frustration for sure for some employees, and I get that and I understand it. In my state, that's just too big of a liability litigation policy. If there was ever to be some sort of a crazy incident, it's just not worth it. And I get it. And it's very possible that like been a really good carpenter who wouldn't work for me because we wouldn't let them bring their dog to the job site. But at the end of the day, like we have to do what's best for the whole company. So that's our policy. Tobacco is another big thing. Um, so I recommend you don't allow chewing tobacco on job sites, but everybody. So here's the thing: some people think you should, some people say you shouldn't. If a person doesn't like it, they don't like it, and then they don't want it in their house. And you have to always remember, we are not a manufacturing company that manufactures stuff on our own premises. If we did, if I have my own workshop and I'm building like custom cabinetry, then yeah, my guys can chew tobacco in our workshop. But we're inside a homeowner's house. That's not our property. No, we're not chewing tobacco inside their property. Anyway, little things like that can make a big difference. Profanity, arguments. There should be no bickering, arguing between if you and look, guys are guys, and sometimes you have to explain to your guys, like, hey, you two are going to have to drive off site, go find a parking lot somewhere. You're going to have to figure it out, but you can't do it here in front of the homeowner on the homeowner's job site, right? Um, what else? You're not using the homeowner's computer to look something up online. No, you're not doing that kind of stuff. Um, make sure I think I already mentioned this, but you have to unplug tools and disconnect batteries. Um, doors and windows need to be, don't leave ladders. Now, scaffolding's different. Scaffolding you leave up, but a ladder shouldn't be left up at night. If at a homeowner's house where there's members of the homeowner staying there, those things should be laid down. Again, it's especially if there's kids. Um, always be polite. No boots. People have to learn, like, if you guys are doing exterior work like building an addition and you just dug for footers, the guys are going to be pretty muddy. If they're coming into the homeowner's house to do something and it's outside of the actual construction area that's taped off, plastic, they can't be wearing those boots. So they either have to get the boot covers or they have to have a second pair of shoes, whatever. You have to remind people these things. Because if not, the next thing you know, one of your guys is going to be outside digging a footer. It's raining, he's muddy. And then the next thing you know, he's going to walk right through the homeowner's house from back to the front, go up and down steps, walk through the carpet because he's not thinking about it. And that's the last thing that you want. You shouldn't be taking food from the homeowner. Even if they offer, you should say no. But I get it. Some homeowners will offer the guys food. And okay, but as a policy, we don't do it. Yeah, the white carpet. You got it. You laugh, but it happens. Before you know it, it's going to happen. So, the guys should always politely refuse to take food. Because here's the thing, we're not there. That's great if the homeowner wants to feed you. We appreciate it. The issue you start running into is the next thing you know, that half-hour lunch becomes a 1.5-hour lunch because now the guys are talking to the homeowner about this and that, and everyone's socializing. Uh, you know, so you have to find that balance. And usually the best way to find the balance is we don't, if you want to make the guys some food, maybe on a Friday, that would be something nice. End of the week, maybe there's a cookout or whatever. You want to give the guys some coffee cake or whatever. You made an apple pie, great. But we're not looking for the homeowners to be catering to the crews. Moonlighting, this is a big one. Our guys don't moonlight for clients after hours. So if the homeowner wants additional work done, it's done through the company. The guys don't moonlight. Okay. So you just have to have it in writing. The good guys don't do it anyway, but if you don't have it written out, then there's this gray area. And you have to explain to the homeowner, Mr. and Miss Smith, one of the things that's nice about our company is you won't have to be worried about thinking that you need to hire these guys outside to help them like get some extra hours for overtime or personal projects. Any work that you ever want done by anyone that's associated with our company, you always just talk to us, me, my salesperson. That's how work gets done through our company. And you let them know this up front. And don't get me wrong, some homeowners, they have a game plan, and their game plan is to cut you out if you're the GC or the boss, right? And they want to hire your guy to come over on Saturday and retile that bathroom or their investment property, for an hourly wage, a worker's wage instead of a company wage. And the best way we found to combat that is you just have a policy. There's no moonlighting, and you bring it up with the homeowner up front from day one, and you let them know we don't do moonlighting. We'd love to have you hire us for extra work. And if you like one of our carpenters and that's who you really want to do the other project, that's fine. You can request that James does the work. And if we can make it work with our schedule, we'll let you know. But all work comes always through the top down, the project manager, sales rep, right? Or the owner of the company. It doesn't go the other way. You don't just grab one of the guys off the site and have them do something on the side. So, and this is a big problem that comes up, but when you have a policy like this, it tends to squash it. I'm not saying it won't eliminate it 100%. I can share this with you. So one of the companies that I work with to help them with their business and on the coaching side, it's a husband and wife. They have several of their kids, two daughters, one son, and their son's an amazing technician, right? He's awesome. He does really nice bathrooms. And he was for a long time taking side work from his own family. Like, hear me on this. This is how crazy this was. The dad would go out and sell the job, and he would send the son to do a lot of the work. Sometimes they would go together, sometimes they wouldn't. And homeowners, being smart and taking advantage of people, would, whenever the dad wasn't around, they would come up to the son and say, hey, I mean, when I say son, he's like in his 20s, so he doesn't live at home per se, but they'd be like, yeah, your work's amazing. And they're totally setting them up. Yeah, this is great. Hey, do you ever do anything on the side? You want to make a little extra cash? And the next thing you know, the son's doing side work and here's the thing. If the homeowner wants cheap labor, fine, they can find that, but they shouldn't be finding it through your company. That's what I'm trying to say. And everyone on your company needs to know, like, hey, we provide a prevailing wage, we pay well, and you guys have to help us protect that discipline. If you're going to go around and start working for the homeowners on the side, that degrades the entire structure that we're trying to set up here. That's not what we're about. And what we would say to our crew is, if you need more hours or more time, please come talk to us. We'll make arrangements to help you with that. But how you don't go about it is taking it or getting it from some of our less than, I don't know, we would call them shady homeowners that are always looking for a deal. So this is a real problem in the industry, and the best way is just to bring it out up front. And eventually what ends up happening is your crew respects you and your policies, the homeowner respects your policies, and then this whole side work thing goes away. You don't have to worry about people trying to pay your guys cash to get them to come do other things. Um, and then you actually have to have a policy that says do not perform tasks that aren't on the scope without talking to the project manager and getting a change order. So that should be addressed with all your subs and all your guys. Um, Things like cell phone usage, that has to be addressed. Like, hey, obviously you can have a cell phone on the site, but you can't be holding it like this all day long. You can't be watching a TV show. I'm not saying they can't put it in their pocket and have something playing. Again, as long as they have the transparency mode. But, most of your guys are working with their hands, and one of their hands shouldn't be holding a phone most of the day. Every guy that, if you have W-2 employees, they should always have a break in the morning. They should have lunch, and they should have a break in the afternoon. Yeah. And then they can make all those phone calls or texts or whatever they have to do. But when they're at work, they're working. So the other thing we have on here is what's called completion of tasks. So we're big on having a written out task list on every job site, and your lead, whoever's in charge, you should write up tasks for the day. And then whoever on your team is completing the task, they get to sign it and put their initials by it. And that really helps with production as well. I think I've talked about that before. So, all right, guys, that's everything that I can think of. If you have any other specific questions, let me know. Otherwise, we're going to bounce. Yep. Thank you, Jay Allen. All right. Yeah. So, yeah, think about it, Jay Allen. Just you might want to write down like 10 things. Anyway, it's something to think about. All right, guys. That's from what I can tell. I don't see any other comments coming in. Y'all have a great night. Thanks for being here. Yes, sir. Have a good one, Jay Allen. I do appreciate you. Take care, buddy.